You all hear that? She said he runs a podcast. Laughter. Not the fun kind. The sharp, stinging kind that starts polite and turns cruel. I stood there holding a half-empty champagne flute, my smile frozen, my stomach turning cold. My wife was 2 steps away, her face locked in this awful hybrid between awkward amusement and silent approval. She didn't laugh, but she didn't stop them either. We were in the executive lounge on the 32nd floor of her company's high-rise. Walls of glass, expensive art that looked like someone spilled coffee on canvas, and servers in white gloves handing out shrimp skewers like they were currency. Corey, her coworker, or maybe her work husband, depending on how far you want to lean into humiliation, was doing a toast. Correction, he was roasting me, mid-toast, and no one saw a problem with it. Because, you see, in their world, I was the plus one. I wasn't part of the ecosystem of promotions, campaigns, late-night strategy sessions. I didn't add value to the conversation. I was just the guy with a soft voice and a fading career. You guys should check it out, Corey continued, swirling his drink. He talks about self-worth. Or was it self-employment? I forget. More laughter. A woman near the fruit table actually snorted. And I just stood there, heat crawling up my neck, hands shaking slightly as I pretended it didn't bother me. That I wasn't silently bleeding inside my pressed blazer. That I wasn't counting how many times Leslie had glanced at Corey tonight. That I hadn't noticed how her laugh was always a little too quick when he spoke, how her back straightened whenever he walked into the room. Corey finished his toast by raising his glass and saying, to Leslie, for carrying not only this campaign, but, let's be honest, maybe a little extra weight too. The room roared. That's when I saw it, my wife's face. She flinched. Not visibly, but just enough for me to notice. Just enough for me to finally believe what I'd been afraid of for months. And that's when I stopped being embarrassed. I stopped being quiet. I stopped pretending I didn't notice the texts she hid, the late nights that smelled like hotel soap, the way she always left her ring at home on networking Fridays. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I just set my glass down on the marble bar top, nodded politely to the room, and stepped out onto the balcony. The view was stunning. Cold wind. Distant traffic. 32 floors above everyone. I took out my phone, opened the folder labeled Not Paranoid, and finally hit send. For emails. 3 screenshots. 1 video. Every single piece of proof I'd quietly collected over the last 6 weeks. Sent to the right people at exactly the wrong time. Inside, they were still laughing. But they had no idea the room was about to go silent. The strange thing about detonating a bomb is how quiet everything seems right after you drop it. I stood alone on that balcony for maybe 2 minutes. No wind. Just the faint hum of city noise far below. I kept waiting for something. My phone to buzz, someone to burst through the glass door, a scream, anything. But it was just silence. The kind that wraps around you when you finally let go of pretending. Then it started. The door slid open behind me. A pause. I didn't turn around. Marcus. It was Leslie. Her voice was sharp, just 1 syllable away from panic. Did you? What did you do? I still didn't turn. I just smiled at the skyline like I was watching Karma land on schedule. Back inside, I could hear murmurs turning into movement. Chairs shifting. Someone gasped. A man's voice barked something muffled, angry. That must have been her manager, Dale, the VP she always praised for his emotional intelligence. Ironic. Leslie stepped closer, grabbed my elbow with those cold fingers of hers, and hissed. What the hell did you send to Dale? Now I looked at her, and for the first time in 6 months, she actually flinched under my gaze. Oh, I said softly, just a few highlights. Your project timelines. Your team-building weekends. That hotel footage with Corey leaning a little too close in the elevator. I figured the board would appreciate knowing how company funds were being used. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I waited. Still nothing. So I added, oh, and I copied HR. And legal. You know, just to be thorough. The color drained from her face, like someone pulled a plug. She was quiet now, finally. No fake smiles. No work-wife chuckles. Just raw, wide-eyed silence. The kind you never get back from. I walked past her, slowly, and re-entered the lounge. The room was chaos. People staring at their phones. Brandon, Corey, was mid-argument with Dale. A few were pulling away from him like he had some contagious disease. Leslie's assistant was crying. I don't even know why. I moved to the bar like nothing had happened, picked up my half-finished drink, and took a calm sip. Marcus, you can't just, Leslie began behind me. Oh, I can, I said, not even looking at her. And I did. It hit me then. This wasn't revenge. Not really. I hadn't destroyed anyone. I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I just revealed. Quietly. Efficiently. Like a mirror turned around. Corey was escorted out 20 minutes later. Red-faced, still barking half-baked denials, threatening lawyers. No one believed him. Leslie? She stayed. She didn't follow me when I left. She couldn't. Not with her world finally cracking in the exact same places she told me to ignore. And the best part? I didn't raise my voice once. When I woke up the next morning, the apartment felt eerily still. Leslie hadn't come home. I'd half expected her to barge in at 2 a.m., ranting, defending herself, throwing blame around like broken glass. But she didn't. No calls. No texts. Nothing. Just silence. And honestly, it was a relief. I made coffee like I always do. 2 mugs. Out of habit. I poured hers anyway and left it untouched on the counter. Watching it go cold was oddly satisfying. By 11 a.m., my phone finally buzzed. It was a single text from her. Can we talk? Please. No punctuation. No emotion. Just that strange flatness people use when they know they've already lost the high ground. I didn't respond. It took everything in me not to. But I knew if I answered now, I'd be dragged into explanations, circular arguments, carefully worded half-confessions. I didn't want explanations. I wanted distance. By that afternoon, the whispers had spread beyond the office. I know because her old friend Tasha called me. Tasha, who always gave me side eyes and once told Leslie I seemed like the kind of guy who still owned cargo shorts. She called to say, I just want you to know, I had no idea any of this was happening. No one did. And for once, I believed her. Because you can fake a lot, smiles, meetings, even marriages, but you can't fake the way guilt scrapes the edges off someone's voice. By the second day, the floodgates opened. Someone from HR must have leaked the report. It wasn't just Corey caught on camera. It was hotel receipts, duplicate travel reimbursements, a direct message thread with language no corporate filter would ever approve of. And Leslie? She was listed in the CC line on more of those emails than she would ever admit. Around 3 p.m., she finally showed up at the apartment. I didn't answer the door at first. I just watched through the peephole as she stood there, coat draped over her arm, phone in hand, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She knocked once more, then just stood there. I opened it. She started with my name. Like just saying Marcus would undo everything. Then came the tears. I didn't know how far it would go, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to become what it did. I almost laughed. Because that's what always kills me about betrayal. It's never the moment itself that breaks you. It's the way they rewrite the script afterward. Like you didn't feel what you felt. Like the knife wasn't sharp. Like maybe you just bruised yourself by falling wrong. I let her talk. 20 minutes of rehearsed sorrow, of shifting blame to Corey, to pressure, to stress, to loneliness. She even had the nerve to say, "You've been so distant lately." That's when I finally spoke. Yeah, I said quietly. I've been distant. I was trying to survive in a marriage where I wasn't being seen. She blinked, like that thought had never occurred to her. Like her affair was some isolated event and not the rotten fruit of a tree we both stopped watering years ago. She asked if we could fix it. Said she'd go to therapy, quit her job, start over. But I was already done. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just done. I closed the door. On her voice. On her promises. On the cold cup of coffee still sitting on the counter behind me. And I swear, the silence never felt more peaceful. By the third day, her calls turned frantic. Not just emotional, desperate. She started leaving voicemails, and I listened to them not out of hope, but out of morbid curiosity. It was like hearing someone read back a script they used to mock. The same woman who used to sigh when I asked her to talk now couldn't stop begging me to answer. Marcus, please. Just talk to me. I made a mistake. You don't have to do this. We can work through this. I need you. But that was the problem. She needed me now. Not when I was breaking. Not when I told her I felt like a ghost in my own home. Not when I begged her to be present instead of perfect. Now she wanted the man who sat quietly beside her while she built an empire of secrets. I didn't block her. Not yet. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted her to feel every second of this shift. I'd spent months, no, years, trying to be enough for a woman who never really let me in. Now she was locked out of the life she thought I'd never leave. Around noon, I received an email from her company's compliance department. Formal. Cold. They requested a statement regarding my evidence, how I obtained it, when, and if I was aware of the internal code violations it revealed. I didn't reply right away. I let it sit. I wanted them to sweat too. They all stood by while Corey ran his mouth, while my wife sat quiet in boardrooms and lounges and late-night Uber rides, thinking I didn't notice the subtle exchanges, the proximity, the shift in language. Everyone was complicit. Every chuckle at his jokes was another match dropped on a dry forest. Later that afternoon, I got a call, not from Leslie, but from Corey. I didn't even know he had my number. His voice was tight, controlled, but shaking at the edges. Look, man, I don't know what you think you saw or what your problem is, but this isn't just some personal beef anymore. You're ruining careers over nothing. That word, nothing. It triggered something inside me I hadn't felt in years. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my tone. I just said, funny. You never thought I was a threat. Now you're calling me scared. He cursed under his breath and hung up. Good. They were unraveling. And it got worse for them that evening. Because at 7:03 p.m. I showed up at the downtown hotel where I'd tracked their little strategy weekend 2 weeks prior. Not with anger. Not with confrontation. With a folder. Inside were receipts, time logs, screenshots, a copy of the room service bill charged to Leslie's corporate card with 2 meals and 1 bottle of red wine she swore she hated. I handed it over to a third-party auditor hired by the board to review internal misconduct. The meeting lasted less than 15 minutes. No yelling, no drama, just facts, timestamps, and polite acknowledgement. On my way out, I passed the lobby bar, dimly lit, with piano music playing faintly in the background. I saw another group of co-workers gathered around a table, drinking, laughing, untouched by the collapse happening just a few floors above their heads. I paused for a second, looked at them. Then I smiled. I used to be terrified of being invisible. Now I realized it's the perfect way to move in silence, until the moment they finally hear you. 3 days after I walked out of that executive lounge, my sister called me out of nowhere. Did you know your name is trending on LinkedIn? She asked, somewhere between confused and impressed. Something about a whistleblower tied to a corporate scandal. Marcus, did you do something insane? That word, whistleblower. It felt surreal. I wasn't trying to go viral. I didn't want applause or attention. I just wanted the noise to stop. The lies. The pretending. But I guess when a mid-sized tech firm's VP of marketing and her charming junior strategist get caught misusing company funds and sleeping together in rooms billed under client events, people start paying attention. I hadn't expected my name to float around. I certainly hadn't expected people from my past to suddenly remember I existed. I got 3 texts that day from people I hadn't heard from since college. One said, "Bro, you always were a quiet genius." Another said, "Took guts. Respect." But it didn't feel good. It felt hollow. Because this wasn't revenge porn or some cinematic takedown. This was my marriage. This was me watching the person I loved unravel behind an image she spent years perfecting. That evening, I got an email invite. Anonymous sender. No subject. Just a Zoom link. I almost deleted it until I saw the time. 6:30 p.m. That was the same time Leslie used to schedule her late calls every Wednesday. I clicked it. When it opened, there were 3 faces on the screen. Dale, one of the board members, and Leslie. She looked like she hadn't slept in 2 days. Her makeup was doing a poor job pretending she was still composed. Her voice cracked the second she tried to speak. Marcus. I stopped her. I didn't want excuses. I wanted transparency. From everyone. Dale leaned in. We're conducting an internal review of all involved parties. You submitted key documents. If you're willing, we'd like a verbal statement confirming how you obtained them. I told them. Every detail. Calmly. Truthfully. No embellishment. Then the board member asked, "Are you seeking legal compensation or damages for emotional distress?" That's when Leslie's eyes widened. She hadn't heard that question before. I could tell. She was blindsided. For a second, she looked like she was about to reach through the screen and beg. But I just sat back and said, "I'm not interested in money. I just want the truth to cost something, for once." They thanked me. The call ended. 10 minutes later, Leslie called again. This time, I answered. She didn't cry. Not at first. She was silent, breathing, almost trembling. And then she said, "Why are you doing this to me?" That question hung in the air. To you? That's the problem, isn't it? People like her, people like Corey, they think truth is something that happens to them, not something they caused. I didn't answer, because if she didn't understand by now, she never would. She'd spent so long trying to rise above me that she forgot I was the one who held her up in the first place. And the second I stepped back, everything came crashing down. I didn't expect the call. Not from her, of all people. Leslie's mother, Gloria. Always so formal, always suspicious of me like I was some fragile phase her daughter would outgrow. She'd once told Leslie, during a Thanksgiving we barely survived, that marrying me was settling for kindness when ambition was still on the table. That line stayed with me like a splinter under my skin. I never said anything back then, but I remembered. I remembered everything. So when Gloria's name lit up my phone that Saturday night, I didn't know whether to laugh or brace myself. I answered. She didn't say hello. She dove right in. "Marcus, I don't know what's happening between you two, but my daughter hasn't eaten in 2 days, and she's scaring me." For a moment, I said nothing. I just stared out the window, watching headlights pass like ghosts on the street below. "She's not sleeping," Gloria continued. "She won't tell me anything. Just keeps saying, I messed it all up. Is it true? The things people are saying?" I could hear it in her voice. Tension tangled with regret. Not just about Leslie. About me. About the years she looked down her nose at a man who once brought her daughter soup when she had the flu, who fixed their old garbage disposal without being asked, who sat in the background of their family photos like a placeholder. I didn't explain. I didn't spill details. I just said, she made her choices. I only revealed them. Gloria went quiet. Then she said something I never expected. "I misjudged you." I didn't reply. What was there to say? That all I ever wanted was to be enough for someone who thought I was invisible until she got caught? That I would have forgiven her, maybe, if she'd looked me in the eyes the night it all blew up and told me the truth instead of trying to spin it into a story where she was still the victim? Gloria cleared her throat. "If you ever decide to speak with her again, don't wait too long. She's breaking." That word didn't hit me the way she wanted it to. Because I wasn't out for blood. I wasn't some triumphant winner in a game no one knew they were playing. I was just tired. Tired of pretending my patience made me noble. Tired of explaining how silence isn't weakness. It's stored rage that people mistake for passivity. After I hung up, I sat alone in that apartment, still surrounded by her stuff. Her books. Her throw pillows. That painting she insisted we hang even though it didn't match the wall. Every corner of the place still whispered her name. But none of it felt like home anymore. It felt like a museum of a life I didn't belong to. So I got up, grabbed a suitcase, and started packing, not just my clothes, but everything that was mine. Everything I'd given, built, paid for, or carried on my back emotionally for years. I didn't tell anyone. Not Leslie. Not Gloria. Not my friends. I just vanished from that chapter. Quiet. Complete. And when Leslie walked in the next morning to find an empty closet, an unsigned divorce agreement on the kitchen table, and my key left on her favorite coaster, she finally understood what silence really meant. I hadn't planned on checking the news that morning, but when I opened my laptop at the cafe, the headline was already there. It didn't name her outright. Corporate legal probably handled that, but the article left no doubt who it was about. Internal ethics scandal rocks Marwell and Company. 2 executives removed after investigation. 2. That meant Corey. And Leslie. I read the piece 3 times just to make sure it wasn't a mistake. Her name wasn't mentioned, but phrases like senior-level misconduct, breach of fiduciary duty, and executive relationship leading to misuse of corporate assets made it perfectly clear. And I knew she saw it too. Probably before I did. Probably before she even saw the closet empty. I imagined her waking up, reaching across the bed to find nothing but the cold echo of silence, and then walking into a stripped-down apartment with her phone blowing up and her career vanishing one headline at a time. I didn't feel triumphant. Just hollow. I closed the laptop, paid my bill, and left. That cafe used to be our Sunday spot. Now it felt like walking through someone else's memory. Later that afternoon, I got a message from an unknown number. Just a single sentence. He got fired and blamed everything on me. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? Good. Told you so. There was no satisfaction left in any of it. I didn't want her ruined. I just wanted her honest. I wanted her to feel something other than superiority or silence when I said I was hurting. But maybe she finally did. Maybe watching the pieces fall made her understand that protecting an image at the cost of your soul doesn't make you successful. It makes you a beautifully wrapped implosion. That night, I stayed at a small Airbnb outside the city. Quiet. Minimal. No framed wedding photos. No traces of shared history. I ordered dinner and sat on the little balcony facing nothing in particular. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone's footnote. I felt real. And as I sat there, sipping water from a cheap glass, I got another message. This one was longer. I know I can't undo what I did. I know saying sorry isn't enough. But I need you to know I see it now. I saw how much you gave. I saw how small I made you feel. And I hate myself for not realizing it before it was too late. I read it once. Deleted it. Then I turned off my phone. I had one chapter left to close. And I planned to end it in person. It was raining when I saw her again. Not dramatic movie rain. Just that soft, gray drizzle that makes everything feel quiet, like the world's been muted. We met in a small public park, neutral ground. No lawyers. No drama. Just two people standing under an old tree that had probably seen 100 breakups and 1,000 apologies. Leslie looked different. Not broken. Just smaller. Stripped down. No heels. No sharp suit. Just jeans, a sweatshirt, and eyes that had finally stopped trying to win. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I almost didn't, I replied. She didn't try to defend herself this time. She didn't offer excuses or rehearse lines. She just stood there, letting the silence hang, and for once, she didn't seem uncomfortable inside it. I ruined it, she said eventually. Not just the marriage. You. I ruined you. And I'm sorry. I nodded. That was all I needed to hear. Not for closure. Not for redemption. Just for truth. Honest, unvarnished truth. I'm not angry anymore, I told her. I was furious. I wanted you to feel everything I felt. And now, I just want peace. For both of us. Her eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. She just whispered, I really did love you. I know, I said. I loved you too. But love isn't always enough. We sat on the bench for a while, not talking, just watching the rain fall through the trees. And when we finally stood, we didn't hug. We didn't promise to keep in touch. We just exchanged one last look, the kind you give someone when you finally see them clearly, maybe for the first time. That night, I went back to the small apartment I'd rented, opened my laptop, and stared at a blank screen. Then, without thinking, I started to write. Not about Leslie, not about betrayal, but about starting over. A real, messy, painful, hopeful beginning. I didn't know what would come next. Maybe a new city, maybe a new voice, maybe even love, somewhere down the road. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt free. And sometimes, freedom is the best revenge of all.